DeGrom and then kind of work from there. Again, I do think league size would play a role there to determine exactly how comfortable I am doing that. But the freedom to do something like that makes it a lot easier to plan what you want to do with your pitching in an auction.
Okay. By the way, just since you mentioned them, we had a mailbag question from Morgan who says, I traded Max Fried for Brandon Woodruff in a keeper league. Please tell me I didn't foolishly make this trade. I think you would assume that he's okay.
I swear I did not see that before. It was on the list, but I did not look at that and reference those two because of that email. That's hilarious. Yeah, I totally love that. And again, some people see them close. It's less of a negative on Fried and more of a positive on Woodruff that I do have them a cut apart. So I like that trade.
ATC has Fried as the number 34 starting pitcher, so I think ATC agrees. Ruvain, what about you? What's the difference between going to auction strategy with the way you're shaping up your pitching?
Let me throw out the Woodruff-Fried thing first. The Woodruff, his K rate has gone up for the last 3 years. That's why you go for Woodruff over Fried. That's For me, that's it, because you're looking for strikeouts, and that's why you draft a number one pitcher. If it's a normal draft, I would take a pitcher either in the first or second round. I'm not letting one of those two rounds go by. I can't go hitter, especially let's say you're near a turn. If you're near a turn or by the wheel, you're not going to get a pitcher for so long. You have to wait so long. The value is just so low that it just doesn't make any sense to wait on it. You can't wait anymore. The the value for it has been pushed up so high that if you wait for it, you're going to be shut out, and you're just going to be hoping that one of these lottery ticket pitchers at the end actually hit. As it comes for auction, I can't see myself spending as much money on Jacob deGrom or Garrett Cole as I would on a Ronald Acuna or as I would on a Mookie Betts. I just value those hitters so much more because pitchers tend to break down. I'm very nervous about that, and I just don't want that risk going in there. And you know what? There's some leagues now that have quality starts with wins, and if you're doing that together, yes, you need one of these pitchers also. So I think when we're talking about this, you also have to see the scoring for each league, because if you just have plain wins, if you have Jacob deGrom, you may not take deGrom, you may take Cole instead because you get more wins. But if you have like a win quality star type league, then a pitcher is so much more valuable, and deGrom is so much more valuable, so you would take the pitcher with your first pick in the first round.
So for me, the plan in drafts, in general, if there is a player run, where do you want to be at? Do you want to be at the starting the run, or do you want to be at the very end of the run? It's always at the start. You do not want to have a string of 5-7 pitchers and you get the seventh one. I got to get that guy.
I totally agree with you, and I hear a lot of advice suggests that it's fine to be at the end. I guess if you value them, it depends your valuations, I guess. But I don't want to be at the front. I want to spur those runs, mainly because the way I think about it, though, too, is like if you spur a run, then all those picks right after are kind of free picks for you, right? Because you weren't, like, you got your guy, and so the pick getting back to you, those are all free picks. Meanwhile, when you're at the end of the run, you're seeing all those picks go, and they just feel like little gut punches one after another because all the value's going away, and you're going to get stuck with somebody that you don't even – there's nothing worse than the feeling of getting stuck with somebody that you don't feel that great about, but you feel like you have to take because the draft has forced you. That is painful, and I don't like to be stuck in that situation. So I totally agree. And with what Ruvain's saying, if you pick, say, 7th and beyond in a 15-teamer, that second pick has to be your pitcher if it's not the first pick, or else you're going to have, like I said, Max Fried, Kenta Maeda, Dinelson Lamet, Tyler Glasnow leading your staff, and I like those guys, but they have to be number 2s for me. Like I can't make them my number 1 guy.
I mean, keep in mind, everybody else is spending on pitching. So if you don't spend on pitching, you're going to be at a loss. And if everybody else, we talked about this with Tristan Cockcroft, if everybody else is paying a market premium of a round or so, it's okay to pay that round. Just hopefully you won't pay one round. You'll pay only half a round more than you should. In the value difference, if you have 7 picks in a row, the pick slot value is not going down by all that much, but the actual value between the top and the bottom pitchers could be great. So for sure you want to start a run. I use this example usually when we're doing catchers. Is JT Realmuto great to take in the 4th round? The answer is it really depends on when the next catcher is taken. If the next catcher is taken in the 5th round, it's a humongous bargain. If nobody wants to take a catcher and the next one's taken in the 18th round, well, you shouldn't have taken Realmuto all the way in the 4th. So some of the value, it depends on some of the other people, which makes drafts really tricky and a strategy onto its own. In terms of auctions, I'm a value guy. I like to get the value for people. I think that there's a chance this year for the super elite to really have the value. I mean, we're talking about $7, $8 difference possibly for DeGrom, where DeGrom is close to even be valuing it like a $50 pitcher, and he might only go for $40 at an auction. I'd rather pay the $40 for DeGrom than overpay for a Walker Buehler and pay $35. Why? I'd rather spend the extra $5 to get so much more value. So I would go towards the top. But I'm finding a couple of ATC undervalued players somewhere in the middle. So it may be okay to do some 1A, 2 type. Like you might find a good 1A, a good 2, and another good 3. And that might be the way to go to maximize your value, which brings us to our ATC player discussion. As what we do on the show, Paul, is we don't go through the whole player pool. We take a look at what ATC is showing in value. We take a look at what the market is currently saying, and we look for undervalued players, and we go through some of these undervalued players to determine if we agree. Now, we talked about Chris Sale, and even though it appears to be undervalued, we don't buy it, so we're going to pass that. ATC gives us it's not a be-all, end-all. It gives us the candidates to look for. So our first candidate here is Clayton Kershaw. This guy has been the bomb throughout his career. Do you know, in the last 10 years, since 2010, what is his highest whip? Can anybody guess?
His highest whip, darn, I thought you were going to say ERA, which I think is 3.05. But
3.03 is his highest ERA, which is crazy.
I'm going to say
whip?
114. That's a blind guess.
104.
Oh my gosh, I was over by 0.1, which is massive in whip.
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts. He's so insane, and that's why I love him. And I was pretty big on him last year, advocating when people were starting to get off the train a little bit. And I just I understand the innings, but everyone's coming back to Kershaw in the innings, right? We just talked about it at the outset with the 200 inning stuff. Yeah, he doesn't go 200 anymore. The last time he did it was 2015. Hardly anybody does, though. So when he's putting up an average of from 16 to 19 of 166, he's not that far off the pace, especially for getting him a bit cheaper. And his 58 innings in this past year, 10 starts, that's in line with what everyone else was doing, and he was great again. So I am not anywhere near jumping off the Kershaw train. Yes, he's 33, but I do think the price does build in a little bit of his age and concern discount, enough for me to take the shot. The innings I get from him are going to be great, and if he does go on the shelf, I do get to replace him too. So I trust my savvy enough to get on the wire and hopefully put some quality innings in there if he does miss time.
Yeah, the point is with Kershaw is that you're getting quality when he pitches. It's not the worry of bad performance. It's the worry of he'll miss some starts. And as you mentioned, you get extra value because you put him on the bench and you get another starter in there to accumulate stuff. A very big difference. Do you know that DeGrom is the same age as Kershaw?
Yes.
We talk like, Kershaw's the older guy. DeGrom is same age.
He's a late bloomer.
Kershaw's 33. He's 33. He's thrown 2,300 innings already. 2,300 innings, which is crazy.
Wow.
And last year, his fastball was at 91, on average of 91.6, which was his highest since 2017. How's that even possible? He's dealt with back issues, and he's on the shelf every once in a while, and the Dodgers want to keep him healthy for the playoffs, and we understand that. Mm-hmm. And he was even a little lucky last year. He had the lowest BABIP of his career last year. So he had a little luck, but also he lowered his walk rate again. How is someone with a whip that low lowering his walk rate? So it seems like he's learning how to pitch even more, and he's learning how to pitch with his bad back because he has a herniated disc in his back. Those don't go away. You have those the rest of your life unless you have surgery. So he's learning how to pitch like this, and there's no reason. He's a lefty. He can pitch much later than other pitchers. Even after this, he can go into the bullpen. He can pitch like Jesse Orosco. He can pitch until he's 47 if he wants to, if he still has that great curveball.
That'd be amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
A second career for Kershaw as a one-inning reliever. I don't think that he'll do that, but I love the prospect of that. Of Kershaw
possible.
Pitching at 45. It is possible, and he has learned to live with his back because that is an issue. But I think people run way too far from him, so I'm in.
Yeah, his ground ball rate last year was the highest of his career, 53%.
It's fantastic.
Isn't that crazy? He's a guy who, he used to be sitting at 94. Now he sits barely at 90. He's not a thrower. He's a pitcher. He knows how to get people out. I would just keep an eye out during spring training of his fastball velocity, early starts in the season. That could be an indication, but if it doesn't dip any further, I think that Kershaw is a great pick for the value. So ATC agrees, and we agree also, it looks like. How about Tyler Glass now? Paul, are you in on him? What are your thoughts about the Tampa Bay Rays?
So the rankings that I currently have on the site are from a long time ago, but I had him 9. That was a pretty aggressive snap reaction to the season that just was, and that's just kind of where I had him. He is not there anymore. I can say that with certainty, as I did the Black Book, the Fantasy Black Book with Joe Pisapia, and I did the pitchers on there, and I updated my rankings. I know he's not there now. I believe he's at 19. I moved him down a little bit, but then I kind of have inched him back up another couple spots. So he's at 17 right now. Where does ATC put him exactly?
We have in the top 10, actually.
So I'm probably not doing that. My concern is still that he's a 2-pitch guy, and how many innings is he going to get? One thing I will say to that, though, they trust him more. They clearly trusted him more than they trusted Snell, right? Glass now, despite being a 2-pitch guy
right,
and having issues at times, they seem to trust him to go 6+ a lot more often than Snell, considering he didn't do it at all this year, and Glass now did it. He went over 5 in 6 of his 11 starts and 6+ in 4 of those 11. So they seem to trust him. I do wish he had that third pitch, though, and I still think that causes issues. It has the little home run rate kind of lurking there. So top 10, I mean, I guess I was with ATC at the very beginning of draft season. It makes me feel a little bit better about that snap judgment there that I made, but I've come down on that, so I can't claim that anymore. I have moved him down. I'm going to pass on top 10. I think that's a little too aggressive for a guy with only 2 pitches and a little bit of a home run issue.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pass on him also. He's got a 12.5 K per 9 over the last 3 years. That's great. His Ks are up, but his ground balls are down, and his hard hit contact was up 10% last year. So when they're hitting it hard. His home run to fly ball rate was the highest of his career. But again, you mentioned the 2-pitch pitcher. There's a 15-mile-an-hour difference between his curveball and his fastball. That's still going to get you a lot of strikeouts. So if you're willing to live with those home runs, then he's a guy who can accumulate home runs for you. I mean, strikeouts for you. He's a guy who, I won't really have him for my ERA or WHIP, but I'm going to have him for those strikeouts because those strikeouts are so tantalizingly good.
So I like him. I actually think he's a buy. His WHIP, forget about just 2020, his WHIP over the last 2 years, 2019 to 2020, 1.01. It is very hard to find that kind of pitcher who will stabilize your ratios. And I'm not going to say that I love it having him as my ace. I think he's more of a 1A, but if coupled right, I think it could really work to get a pitcher with the volume and then him to bank the ratios. As Ruve mentioned, he had a 4.08 ERA last year, but he had a 23% homer to fly ball ratio. His xFIP was 2.75, so he's going to help you in ERA. He had in 2019 1.78 ERA. I think this guy is super good for the ratios. And look at this. He pitched 57 innings last year. That would scale to, if we use the multiplier of 2.7, taking 60 games to 162, 155 innings, which isn't a lot, but 246 strikeouts. We're talking 246 strikeouts without even pitching, a rate of 200, 155. That's tantalizing. As long as he's not injured to start the season, I like this guy very much as my 1A to couple with another 1A to go boom boom. He's going late 4th round. I think he's a tremendous bargain.
I think that's the thing that I was kind of misinterpreting or misanalyzing there, because I was saying I wouldn't take him in the top 10. But you're saying that obviously the ATC values him as a top 10. You're taking him where he goes as the 17th, 18th pitcher. That makes a bit more sense there, particularly if he's your second. He goes basically where I rank him. So I guess I would be in on him. And then with ATC liking him more, I think I misspoke there when I said I would be out. I was interpreting it as taking him as a top 10 guy, which I would not do.
He's going as the 19th pitcher. I think he's okay. A lot better than the 19th pitcher.
That's fine.
Those strikeouts, 100% take it.
Lance Lynn is going ahead. Kenta Maeda is going ahead of him. I'm sorry. I'm taking Glass now over Maeda.
Kenta Maeda getting a lot of love. Yeah, that's who I bumped him up. When I bumped him down to 19, I bumped him back up up, and it was to go over Maeda because I was like, it's a little high on Maeda, and I love what he was able to do